Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Thursday edition of the MSP Initiative Live. Today is May 26th. We're almost in June. I mean, this year specifically, time has definitely really been, I feel like, on an accelerated timetable. I don't know about everybody else, but I mean, summertime's now pretty much going to kick in. People are going to try and go on vacations. They may not like how much it costs them to drive places, given the current reality of the world, but definitely, hopefully, take some time and get some R&R somewhere in there. Gonna get some housekeeping done out of the way, and then we'll see where we go. So let me go ahead and MSPinitiative.com. Under sessions, this and every other session we've ever done is in podcast and video format. Keep peeled. Like, we're getting very close to announcing our MSP community block parties. Very excited about them. Going to be very interesting this year. And then Channel Strong, right? That's the bus tour we've been doing. I feel like since August of 2020. That's just been driving around in a bus with the MSP parking lots, having something like that, having good conversations. So the next one is in the Northeast. You can see our full schedule. We are now officially in week 4 out of 8, sprinkled out throughout the year. So at the end of June, approximately 1 month from today, Reston, Virginia, Baltimore, Maryland, somewhere in South Jersey, Philadelphia, and then, July 4th weekend. So let everybody go out and buy some fireworks and get their American flags ready, because, that's my favorite holiday. So MSPinitiative.com, you'll see all of that. You'll see us on the road. We love these, by the way. And our guest today will probably talk a little bit about that, because he's just experienced one of those for the very, very, very first time. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce, if you don't know him, get to know him, Mr. Ryan Detting from Crewhu. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, George.
No, hey, it's my pleasure, really. So you finally got on a tour bus. You finally got out on the road. It's been a long time in the making.
It was definitely.
How'd you like it?
I actually loved it. I thought you guys do a great job with that, and meeting the partners in that format is just great. Tailgating, having a beer, just hanging out, and getting to see some of the countryside too. Is great.
Yeah, America by highway is completely different than flying over cities, right? So, and it's always nice to have, pretty much rock star status, right? To take you straight to the front door, drop you off. I mean, you can't go wrong.
That's true. That is true. The tour bus definitely turns some heads, man.
Hey, this is how, people don't realize, right? These are how major acts travel through the country, right? I mean, they when they got multiple, concerts to do, stadiums, bar style setups. When I was down in Texas a few weeks ago, I stopped by Billy Bob's, right? It's that big venue over there in Fort Worth. And I was like, wow, this place is a lot bigger than I thought. And I was like, this is how these guys do it. They go and place by place by place by tour bus, and they just, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, for sure. It was it's definitely funny, because when you pull over for food or whatnot, people are like, hey, who are you guys? What are you doing? So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, it's cool. And by the way, in past tours, people trying to go through the drive-through in the bus. Yeah, probably not a good idea. So you just see 2 dudes rolling up to the, to the speaker, right, trying to order, and it's kind of funny. But
that is pretty funny.
Yeah, big vehicle. You can't quite make around all those turns.
Oh yeah.
So I assume there was some good conversation, right? What did you find MSPs we're talking about, right? I love when you grab a couple of drinks, and then all of a sudden, the real conversation comes out, rather than the questions in a breakout room.
Oh,
so
yeah.
What's the chirping? What's the news on the street? What are people talking about?
Man, they're talking about I mean, at least with us, it was a lot about keeping their employees, getting them to get more engaged with things, trying to have more fun and develop more kind of I guess you could call it more kind of expansion on the company culture side of things. Like, hey, we want to do this and this is fun. And, we want to give this prize away. And we're trying to get our guys more jazzed up. And of course, part of the fun part is like, you've got a lot of people from the company that's there. It's not just like one person, and it's way better than just at a booth when they walk up and they talk to you. You're sitting back, playing cornhole, drinking a beer with a couple of techs from the company, and you get more of that kind of interaction too, which is really great.
It's interesting, right? A lot of what we're seeing is that like a lot of these people that come out this, especially the host MSP, they're people haven't been around each other still, right? They're still really pushing the remote a lot. Exactly. And like they're coming in just to do this, right? And like I start to ask myself, like, how exactly you remember back when there were offices and like there used to be like that the company happy hour, or hey, let's check out this movie after work, or hey, like I know the axe thing got popular for a second, right? Like I feel like all that stuff kind of melted away, right? And like all of a sudden you have to manufacture that.
Oh, and they were talking a lot about that, George, as well. Like, hey, this is great. We're all together again. We're outside. Sorry about that. So that was definitely part of the topics.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's one of the things, right? Like now companies really have to think about, hey, can I get my people together, right? Especially that like some people are local, some people are remote. We get that. Sometimes you close office down. In this case, we were talking with Fire Logic, who hosted us in Chicago area, and they're opening a second location, kind of further down into the city in Chicago. And I'm like, wow, like we're hearing people kind of wrapping offices up, not rolling them out, more likely. And like I kind of felt like, there's just something to, the kind of more than the hallway conversation, more than the cooler talk. There's like something that's missing, right? When people don't get together. I don't know if there's like hidden vibes in there or whatever, but it doesn't quite feel the same when you're not, kind of collaborating with people.
Yeah, you collaborate, but you also get to know each other really well, and you work together so much, right? You're there, you're with your coworkers more than you're with your family a lot of times, just from the day to day and the weeks and it all adds up. So you get to know them really better when you're kind of with them all the time, and you get a different camaraderie there, and you can kind of gel better too. It's hard to keep it going that way remotely,
Agree. So Brent actually pops in. I love this, Brent. He says, humans have evolved over thousands of years to be social creatures. Tough to change evolution. Right, Brent? I totally agree. Like maybe we have this secret like ESP feature that nobody knew about. It's like part of the brain that like is on the unlock side of the like 90% that we don't use or something. And like that's like that hidden thing. I don't know. I always feel like not just getting to know people, right? But actually, he says the amygdala. There you go. I mean, I'll take your word for it. I feel like that's why you always have a better chance of building rapport with someone, business, non-business, whatever, social, personal, like in person. I don't know, just me. That's why I like in-person stuff. That's why we got on a tour bus. But I really appreciate you guys for jumping on. I know it's hard to be on the road. I mean, at least we made it 1 week instead of 2 or 3 in the past. So like we made it a little bit easier to do. But no, nice to have you out there. And I'm really excited to, kind of continue having, the vibe, right? Because I think, the MSPs are part of a bigger community, whether they like it or not. And I think a lot of them don't realize a lot of the stuff that goes around out there because they may be not event goers. But when you bring it to their backyard, it's a little bit easier to get them to come out of the cave, I think.
Yeah, and it's fun. Like I said, it's not all formal or booth, and they come up and they do. It's just laid back, and you hang out and you have a couple beers, and if you want to talk shop, you can. But and that just happens naturally, right? A lot of times just because that's what we do every day in the channel and the community. But yeah, we're going to sign up for the next weeks, the Northeast. We're going to be with you again, George. So
I'm going to be able to get another person to have like a real Philly cheesesteak and not that stuff that you usually eat, because I don't know what that's like. Rubber.
I don't know that I've ever had like a legit one ever.
Wow. All right, I'm fixing it.
All right.
You heard it here. I have it on tape. Get take care of that. Okay. So guys, if you're in the Northeast, definitely come out, hang out with Ryan and crew. Maybe we'll get you a cheesesteak too. So let's talk a little bit about Crewhu for a second before we get into the current events. So I think, I don't know, people who don't know Crewhu, like company's been around for a long while here in MSP land, right? So hopefully you run into them. Like, I love the spark that started the company, right? I love what the whole thing is about. So tell us a little bit about why Crewhu, where it helps, and if somebody doesn't know about it, why they should look at it.
Yeah, thanks, George. Well, exactly. The spark that started all, it's a great story. Steven Spiegel is our CEO and founder. He's quite the character. You can't miss him.
I love the hat.
Yeah, the hat and the glasses, right?
Yeah.
And the personality is just bigger than life. So yeah, he was one of the original kind of founders of Cold Stone Creamery ice cream store chains, if you're familiar with us. Super awesome ice cream. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he had the first 6 stores in South Florida. And, when he was doing that, he had over 100 employees working there, and he had some turnover, and he had lower than he'd like customer satisfaction levels when he would get kind of the surveys. Now it's retail and it's different, right? But that's when he kind of came up with the idea for Crewhu the first time. So I like to call it like Crewhu 1.0, if you will, the rudimentary version he actually put in the Cold Stone Creamery ice cream stores. And immediately he saw his turnover drop from an employee standpoint, and his customer sat started going up. I know this is crazy, but happy employees equal happy customers. So he started kind of trying to do that in the Cold Stone world, but turns out that all the franchisee guys really just care about counting coupons, not so much about their guys as much. So it didn't work out that way. So being entrepreneurial, like Steven is, he was part of this group in South Florida, and naturally there's an MSP in there because it's entrepreneurial. So MSP is saying, let me see this thing you keep talking about. And he'll take a look at it and he says, hey man, if you hook into my system, I could use this. This is pretty cool. And that's how it was born. So, and that's also why we only do MSPs. That's what we do. And the rest is kind of history, but that's kind of the story of how it started. So really what it's about is employee engagement, but capturing customer feedback. And when it's positive, we use that to recognize and reward your employees for a job well done. And that's the core of it. And then over the years, it's kind of expanded. So now we do online reputation and testimonials. We get you more Google reviews. We have a gamification module, which is fun. And we have an integration with VoIP on that too, where we can kind of take the metrics from calls and whatnot and create contests out of it. We do that with all the PSAs tools too. So it's kind of a big package, but the general idea is we take all the positive feedback and use that to recognize your employees and then tell the world how awesome you are.
I love that, right? I think so. Number one, for everyone that always needs a little bit of extra love in sales and marketing land, reviews are kind of like you hear today, right? Not to put my sales cap on for a second. It's like, oh, well, people always do their research before they even call you now. And it's like, listen, there's a balance to that, right? But I mean, I think reviews, right? Legitimate ones, right, are really important because they kind of speak to, and not just reviews from customers, reviews from your employees too, right? They kind of speak to your company and how it works. And there's a lot of places where you can use those. Google reviews are, Google's kind of collapsed their entire business module into like one place, and reviews are tied to everything, which I'm sure everybody knows, especially if you had a bad interaction, all of a sudden you end up there or on a Facebook review or something like that. But it's always good to get those reviews out there. And I think that's part of the evolution to work, grow by mouth, right? Grow by referral, like that whole thing. So I love contests too, right? I think human beings are wired to be kind of competitive at some level. That's part of that second part of that ESP thing I was talking about earlier. So I love contests, right? Because like basically it just, hey, you're already doing what you're supposed to be doing, hopefully, but like this gives you a little bit of extra incentive to maybe like, grab for that top rope. So,
well, it makes it kind of fun when you can say to your buddy, like, oh, I'm going to pass you today, dude. And like it just makes fun banter and back and forth. And it makes it fun, right? Because it gets monotonous. It can get monotonous. And, so when you do that kind of stuff, it makes it a little bit more fun. But especially going back to what you're saying, like the ESP thing, but just being around people like that when we're all remote, especially, like it kind of pulls it back in where you can do that stuff on chats and Teams and Slack and still have a little bit of that going.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it just, what it does is tries to get people to communicate more. I think that's important. And I think like it puts a little bit more, I don't know, edge into things. I'm a Northeast guy. We live on the edge, so to say. But yeah, no, I love the concept. And quite frankly, the cool part about your tool is that you can take data from a lot of different places and create these like just all these different types of contests, right? So like it kind of can touch every role in the company. And then it kind of can like also create, kind of like hey, as an organization, we're trying to make our customers happy too. And like trying as a group reach a goal too, which I think is really cool. Not just individual stuff, but as a group, you can reach the stuff too. So I love it. I love the concept.
Oh, thanks, George. The idea is, it's about being able to harness the power of, those little daily wins that happen all the time, but everyone's so busy and it kind of gets overlooked. And you can take the positivity and all that great feedback from your clients, and we can use that to give the attaboys and celebrate those daily wins with the employees. And the idea behind it is if you have a super strong company culture built up, and you have the right people in place and processes, man, you can move mountains with that. If you've got engaged people that feel appreciated, recognized, and rewarded, and you celebrate the kind of company together and everyone's engaged like that, I mean, there's no stopping you.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I love that. Well, let's turn it into the well, Brent, you made a comment. I'll throw that out there, but I'm going to put everybody into the ability to chime in if you wish, right? Not, if you don't worry. But basically, we'll live format it today.
So Brent, you want me to read it or do you want to read it? Or do you want me to actually say
I'll read it because you spent the time to type it, and then we'll chat about it. I said, Ryan made an interesting comment about it getting monotonous. I had to I was like, oh, what's that word? Will AI and virtual assistants diminish the need for products like Crewhu, or will it actually increase the human recognition part? I don't know. What do you think there, Ryan?
Man, that's a really good question, Brent. AI and virtual assistants, I mean, they're still not people, right? So at some point, there's going to have to still be that human that's there doing something from a customer service standpoint, right? You can do a lot of stuff with AI and virtual assistants, kind of getting people in, but then after that, what happens, right? So I think they'll always be there, but let's say like it gets so good and so advanced, like you can actually use that to replace.
Let's not even go to it being so advanced. I mean, for heaven's sakes, you and I both do that all the time right now with like chat bots and stuff like that. They've got the things where you go through and you do the self-service help thing. You start typing in your question and it starts redirecting you to the correct article and stuff like that. We're already dealing with that stuff right now. The looking in the face and it's like, hello, may I take your order? I realize that, is maybe a little bit off, but I don't know. Every time I start looking around, that stuff comes faster than I was really ready for.
Well, hold on. Let me jump in because like this is something that just popped up, as a thread somewhere else, and I figured it's a good time to pop it in now. There's all these tools, right, that allow you to like try and automate things, right? Interactions, right? Hey, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. Second you answer, 30 things come out and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Why are you spamming me? All I said was, okay, let's connect. Or, they try and put a human name to an automated kind of person that's trying to prospect, right? And then all of a sudden, like but there is somewhere throughout all of those tools, Brent. And listen, I get pitched them all the time. And like, I really sit back and I say, could this really help? Does this really work? Because like when I get these things, I'm like, this isn't that it just doesn't feel organic enough, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, if I don't think it's gonna work for me, like if I'm not gonna react to it properly, do I think somebody else is? And then like recently, I say quasi recently, it's not so recent, but recently it's like people start to figure that out and they like call you out on it, right? It's like, hey, you're not a real person. Like you created like a fictitious profile behind this tool. You know what I mean? Like I feel like once somebody does figure that part out, like the game's up.
I actually had an experience one time where I got a spam phone call and I'm talking to somebody and I'm thinking, this is a freaking robot. And I actually said it out loud and they actually had a response for it. And it said, I am not a robot. And I thought, oh, now I'm really freaked out.
It's like you're talking to Alexa, right? And
I don't know, like when I get those things, like it gets it started, but I always find myself getting a little frustrated and I try to get to the actual live chat person as fast as possible. Well, but that's me.
Okay. And I agree with a lot of people have done a terrible job of that. However, let's take a look at Google. They have done an incredible job of when I type something in, a good majority of the time, they do a really good job of figuring out what I am looking for. That's all AI, right?
I always thought it would be really cool to like be able to read what people type in to search for in Google and like have a laugh because there's some crazy stuff in there.
I was gonna say, I think that maybe
start typing words and it prompts you with things, and it's things that have,
I think it might be scarier than it is.
I think it's probably got a little bit of all of that, George. A little scary, a little funny, like
it's like when the auto complete's really off, like it could be real. Sometimes it could be really off, and you're like, "Whoa, what am I typing here?"
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to be careful on there. But like so to your point, Brent, like I think it was like 2018, Google through their speech engine had created a bot where like you could have it call like restaurants and places and like book reservations for you. And it sounded like it was a human being on the line who's like for the answerer at the restaurant or whatever, or the hair salon or whatever. But it was actually just like, a speech to text engine. So, I always find it interesting whenever you call into like, whatever, credit card company, cable company, or whatever, pick your vendor, the gas company, electric, whatever. You ever wonder, like when it says, hey, tell us what you want. And it's like, operator, no, we really need to know what you want first. Tell us what you want. It could be something. And then like, it's just like, I feel like it just drags it out. Or whenever I have to say, oh, just tell me the number rather than typing it in. And then like, I'm saying it 5 times before I actually can get the right number in.
They make you confirm it too. They're like, I think you just said, I would like to talk to an operator. Is that true? Yes. I think you just said yes. It's like
that's really frustrating. That's really frustrating. And I think for our phones, I have an auto attendant answering. However, the first thing that I say is, if at any point in time you want to get to a human being, press this. Otherwise, press the and if they hit that, every phone in the company lights up. So
I mean, at the end of the day, I think some of the reason the technology is there is for scaling, right? Or like, to take some human being time out of the mix. I think the big concern is just that, everybody at some point does want to talk to somebody. It's I'll even admit sometimes it does work. Let me give you an example. I was waiting for a package for something. It came damaged. So I reported it to the shipper and I said, hey, can you put in a claim for this? Cause like it was USPS, by the way, which maybe not the best, but it is what it is. And I was just like, dude, this should have broken. Can you do something? Like, did you get insurance on this? Like, oh yeah, we got insurance. I was like, all right, yeah, do it. Like put it in, like, tell me what you want me to do. So as part of this process, I actually had to go to the local post office and like turn the package in for inspection. Like months and months and months went by, and I was like, whatever happened to this box? So I was able to actually call an 800 number for the first time in like forever. I actually got an answer out of an automated system. I was like, oh yeah, your claim was denied on this date and a letter was sent on this date. And I'm like, oh, well, like nobody told me, right? So finally it was like, if you want to talk to a human being, press X after all of that. And I'm like, yes, I do. And my only question was, well, if the claim was denied, where's the stuff? Like, where do I go get the stuff back? Like, you looked at it, you decided you weren't going to cover it. I mean, I would love to know more anyway, but how do I get it back? And they're just like, oh, you need to go back to the post office that you dropped it off at. Now, this was, this was like in November. It's May. And I was just like, where did this box go? I totally forgot about it. But anyway, yeah, it can help. And I just, back to your point, Brent, that kind of, got us down this road. Yeah, AI is not going anywhere. I mean, we've already heard of other countries really progressing it. I think the United States is a little bit behind from what I can tell. But I think at some level, people do business with people, right? I don't care what the logo is. I don't care what the technology is. I don't care what the thing is, right? Like, I appreciate that there's a generational shift to it. And maybe Ryan, I don't know what your opinion is on it. Like, sometimes the younger people are like, I never want to talk to a human being. I'd rather be like, let me play my video games, text message, leave me alone. And it's like, I don't know how anything gets done, but if that's the way you want to roll, cool, go that way.
I think that's a tough one, George. I've got kids and all my kids are older now. We were just talking about that. My daughter's graduating this week, and I've noted, like, I've tried to limit the screen time as a parent, right? Because I want to be able to talk to them and I don't want them to be socially awkward where, that whole thing is real out there. So I've tried hard to do that. But they've actually come in and they notice it as well now, because when, like, we go out to eat, for example, have you ever seen like a whole family of people who are like on their phones, but they're out together as a family, but they're not talking? Everyone's like, or the kids are like zombied out on an iPad and like the parents are talking. But, I always try to say, hey, no, we're going to do this. We're going to talk. Like, we're going to communicate. And I found, like, when they come over for dinner, like, we still sit down at the dinner table and we have dinner, right? And we talk, and all their friends love coming over for dinner because we sit there and we talk and we interact and we communicate. And I think you're going to see, like, yeah, it's shifted to where they don't want to talk to people and they're very, on their phones, but maybe it's going to swing back the other way because you go from one extreme to the other, right? You got to kind of find that middle ground. So maybe it'll swing back where they'll miss that maybe a little bit and it'll kind of come back just a tad. You never know. I could be wrong.
Go where your customer is, right? That's what they say.
Well, that's a good point, though, George. Is I'm going to go with whatever it is that works. You know what? If I wanted to talk to some people and the only way they do it is via text, some people, I try to go through and use whatever medium is that they're going to respond to. And back to the AI thing is, I'm going to use whatever works. Some people have got fantastic systems, and it's like, it's a pleasure to use, and other people, it's like, I want to kill them,
Well, which actually Walter pops in the chat. He loves typing in. He said, I'm old school. I need to yell, and someone calls yelling at the machine doesn't give me the same satisfaction. So basically,
boy, is that true or what?
Yeah. You want to yell at a human, not a machine. So he says, I went out to dinner with two friends. Their noses were in their phones almost the whole time. I tried to bring up a few talking points to draw them in, but unless the topic was specifically about them, they ignored me. It's sad how the technology has made us this way. Wow, that's got to be a really frustrating dinner. I gotta be honest. Doug pops in and says, I walk away from individuals who cannot be eyeball to eyeball, skin to skin, 100%. And Walt comes back and says, beyond frustrating. So, like, we're all talking the same thing, guys. I mean, we're all talking the same thing. It's coming back to technology, right? A lot of people gripe about that the end user doesn't want to deal with the ticketing system, right? Doesn't want to deal, like, and it's just like, A lot of people try to introduce chat. A lot of people have tried to introduce SMS. I love the balance, right? Because like, the idea is that you don't want to answer every single support issue by phone. Got it. But have you ever heard of somebody going all the way to we don't take phone calls at all in our technology business? I think it's hard to do. I really do. At some point, there's an escalation that's required, or maybe there's an urgency, right? At some point, the technology's got to be like, all right, let me get you to the right person, not let me prevent you from talking to someone. So that's just my 2 cents.
So George, if your business gets to that level where you have to start looking at that, have you grown too big?
I don't think even Facebook and Google, when they start dealing with business customers, have to take phone call. It just doesn't work. There's no zero touch sale 100% through. I just saying. I appreciate that people may not get to Facebook support very quickly.
When AI gets to be like Jexy, like then it'll be cool because it's like talking to a real person. But Jexy's not real,
Yeah, Walter's like, are you too small to be on the phone? I guess it depends on, like, that's a value question, right, Walter? I mean, you got to ask the question, right? So let's get into a couple current events because, it's that, So talking about hiring the right people, Ryan, Apple's saying that their base salary now is $22 per hour. What do you think? I think that's interesting, right? Maybe we should go work at the Apple store. What do you think, buddy?
So yeah, that's really interesting. I was actually just talking about this in another group that was asking about employee engagement and recognizing employees and there's been a lot of studies. The most recent one I saw was a Glassdoor study that came out and basically said that if you have a really strong company culture and appreciate your employees, they'll actually accept less salary. And
wow, hold on a second. I wonder how many people agree with that.
They did a study on 4 countries, George. It was 4 different countries: the US, the UK, I can't remember the other 2. And it was over 50%. It was like 56% of the people they polled said they would accept 5 to 10 grand less salary if the company had superior culture and appreciated and recognized and rewarded their employees. And now, of that 56%, they were mostly in the millennial generation. It's true. But that being said, man, those are the ones that are up and coming. So and then the other one was 53%. So it was interesting. And I've got that article. I can send you guys a link if you guys want. But it's interesting because there is definitely a thing where if they feel like the company is cool and fun and they understand work-life balance, they're definitely willing to accept a little bit less salary. Not tons. We're not talking about 20 grand here, right? We're talking about 5 grand, a little bit, but it's still less. And I thought that was really interesting.
That is interesting. It's I guess there's like everybody came up differently. Sorry, got a little tickle there, but everybody came up differently. Like work-life balance, right? Like nobody's working 24 hours a day, right? I like it's not gonna happen, right? I get the people that are behind the scenes, that are the people that just love to work, but even they take breaks, right? Can't be working 12-hour, 14-hour days. Unless it's crunch time and you're at that major project and you got to get it done, right? And like it's just like school back in the day, or even now, hopefully. But I would love to understand, coming off of that, right? The next question would be, how do you value work-life balance? How do you determine what's good work-life balance, right? Because it can shift to in the wrong avenue there, where it's more life. And then the work doesn't get done too, right? So there is a balance somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. Bruce pops in. Hi, Bruce. He says that's a base that people need to get past to cover their lifestyle. After the base, people will take less than top dollar because it's better to enjoy your life and workplace. Okay. So a little bit more context, right? Bruce is popping in. He's like, hey, listen, it all depends on like, hey, I got to get my big stuff covered. And then like the fluff stuff's where I'll be willing to take a cut, right? I guess we should define fluff stuff. I don't think that's in Webster's.
Fluff stuff.
Anyway, so that's
Don't Google
interesting.
that one. That one could come up bad.
That could be bad. Don't, yeah, the back to the search engine results that could end up wildly in the wrong direction. This is interesting. We've been talking about things like monitors and computers and stuff like that. So Lenovo, who by the way ships most of their stuff out of China, says that record sales, great, but supply chain issues, right? I was mentioning this on the last call where they were saying laptops with any custom components were going to take 4 months at the minimum to show up. By the way, Doug pops in on the last topic. He says, paying for compliance and capitulation as opposed to out-of-the-box thinking or financial entrapment. I can't get another job that pays as well. Mill manufacturing jobs pay high for that very reasons. Keeps you in the job. Okay. I appreciate what you're saying there, Doug. Just like everything else, though, let's be fair. Let me just answer that question before we go back to Lenovo. Like, there's a housing bubble right now, right? I don't think anyone can disagree. Like, houses are going for way more than they're actually worth. And then today they came out and said the new housing market's crashing right now. Like, start like over the last week, like all of a sudden it's just going down like the Titanic. And all of a sudden, like the values for new houses are going down. And it's like, is that the beginning of the trend of all the resale value percentages going down? Probably. At some point, there's got to be a bubble to this. I'm going to go somewhere else and try and get more money. I'm not saying that you can't grow and go into a higher position with higher responsibility and get paid more. That's always going to be the case. But like that lateral shift that all of a sudden gives you $20,000 more or whatever, I don't think that can continue forever. There's got to be a limit. There's got to be a bubble. And Walter's like, isn't that how 2008 started? Funny that you should say that, Walter. Did you ever watch the movie The Big Short? Well, the guy behind that movie has come out in like the last 3 days. I read, I can go find the article on it. He said the same thing that started happening in 2008 is really showing now. So it's a little bit scary, right? That there's this bubble there, right? And then the stock market over the last week, if you've been following it, and I don't have a lot of investments to worry about, so I don't have to pay attention to it as much, but it's like down dramatically, right? And that's not a good thing. So like there's a bubble on this employment thing, right? But I do appreciate the fact of what you said on, hey, if you need to keep skilled workers, you got to pay them well, 100%. Not saying shortchange your workers, but you can't there is a glass ceiling somewhere in the mix, right? Can't pay everybody, the same amount at the highest level. I just don't think it works. And isn't that the, excuse me, the age old question about employees in IT, right? Hey, if we document everything and everything was, readily accessible, then do I need a level 3 guy to do, level 1 work, or can I flip that around? I can have a level 1 guy doing level 3 work because it's documented and scripted and automated. And we've been talking about this in a circle in our industry for, I feel like 20 years. Less is more, right? Can you do like, and then I love the, presentations, right? You're like, oh, I started a $2 million MSP with 3 people, a three-man MSP doing $2+ million. And you're like, well, that sounds great, but there has to have been, you can't just get there with nothing, with 2 sticks rubbing together. You got to do something to get there, right? Come back to automation. So anyway, Walter comes back and says, there will be a correction soon. There always is. 100%, Walter. Has to be. It can't keep on going up. It's got to come down. All right. Gravity, right? What goes up must come down. So it's a little bit scary, right? When we talk about food shortages, we talk about gas, all that other stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, this is like a lot of people somehow made it through the pandemic. I call them months, year and a half, 2 years. They kept those people, right? And they even though business was maybe not the best, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, I'm going to go find another job, this, that, and the other. It's like, hey, listen, it's a 2-way street, guys. You got to take care of your companies and your company's got to take care of you. And like, there has to be buy-in from both sides. I mean, I'm not trying to take your thunder, Ryan, but like, to me, like, it's very hard to measure, like, maybe not. Like, how do you know if somebody's really in or they're just like coasting, right? I mean, maybe that's where like the other people in the locker room, right? I use sports references all the time.
Yeah.
Kind of self-police a little bit, right?
Well, yeah. And that, what we call that a Crewhu is kind of like living the core values of the company. And when the employees are displaying the behaviors of the core values and you recognize them for that, you can see, hey, it's a good fit. They're displaying all of our core values at one time or another, and that can show you that, hey, they are bought in. They do want skin in the game. They are, in it to win it. And so that's a good measuring stick for that, to say, hey, is this individual, maybe you don't know them that long. Maybe they've only been there 6 months. Are they displaying those core values? Are they trying? Or, do they have that? Because as a company, when you create that, right, it creates alignment. So you can see if everyone's kind of bought in on it or not, maybe just a little from that aspect.
100%. So back to Lenovo. So they said, hey, record sales, awesome. Supply chain issues, slowdowns, not good. I think that what we saw towards the end of 2021, right, where you're starting to put orders in, I don't think it's really left off. I think we're going to see a little bit about that back, right? Because like these, especially the manufacturing overseas, and they reference in this CRN article that, hey, a lot of these factories in China got shut down due to COVID lockdowns, like within the last 3 months. And that's going to slow things down. So I guess like the world kind of needs to think about diversification again, right? You can't just, go to one place to build everything. So you kind of have to spread that out.
I've got a friend. He works on the enterprise arm at PC Connection. Sorry, it's just Connection now. At Connection, and he's talking about shortages. Now they still deal heavy in servers and hardware and infrastructure, and they're like, it's hard to get anything. And then my father, actually, he's an old school semiconductor guy. He's been retired for like 15 years now. He's getting hit up on LinkedIn by all these companies. And it's kind of funny that you brought it up, George. They're actually trying to bring all the chip manufacturing and semiconductor businesses back to the US. And he's getting like $200 an hour to do consulting on building these semiconductor factories. They're looking in Minnesota, looking in Kentucky, and they want to bring them back from China because of these shortages.
I know when we were on the last leg of the Channel Strong tour, not this one you were on, Ryan, but the one before, our friend Jason Comstock from Clarity Technology in Columbus said that Intel was building like a huge campus, huge factory, where they were going to start doing chip manufacturing. So I was like, hey, that's good news. I love to hear that.
Yeah, Intel actually talked to my dad too. So it's true. I mean, it's happening. There's hedge funds right now that are building money to put into bringing that manufacturing back to the U.S.
Yeah, no boats, no planes, put it on the truck and go. So we talked about it earlier in the week. I know a lot of people said, I'm not sure it's going to make a difference for me. But Broadcom made it official. They're acquiring VMware for $61 billion with a B. So I guess things aren't totally stuck in the mud because these types of transactions are still happening. And Broadcom, who was really a chip hardware manufacturer, chip manufacturer, right, for a long time, and they kind of got into software and services. But anyway, they're using PE and VC money, right? One of those. They mentioned it earlier up here. Silver Lake, here you go. But it's only $6 billion of the $61 billion. Like, okay, where did the rest go? But so hey, just because the markets are a little bit wanky doesn't mean that big things aren't happening. Walter pops in and says, yikes, I better check my VMware stock. Walter, you seem like you're very diversified. You have a lot of diversification there, pal. Got a little bit of money everywhere, which is probably not a bad thing. But yeah, there's another big acquisition in the mix, right? And I mean, VMware's been in the channel for a long time. Some people are deeper than others, but yeah. And of course,
in case this IT gig doesn't work out, Walter, come on, man. I've been betting for 40 years that technology will fail, and for 40 years I've been right.
Yeah, well, or else there wouldn't be a need for IT guys, right? Exactly. So this is interesting. I'm going to parlay this last one. I couldn't help it, right? We're still on, Data Casella. And by the way, DataCon is happening. They're full force ahead. People are getting the invite emails, right? Get in now, early bird pricing, right? It's going to happen in September. I guess there were a couple of people were on the edge thinking that that event was or wasn't happening. Guess what? It is. We'll be doing an MSP community block party around that, heads up. But getting this guy right here. I was like, really? Kasey and Dado are like two old guys getting together. I was like, that's not a good picture. Of course, it's a competitive product. And he said, hey, they've been around for a long time. Obviously, they have a competitive product. Hey, new guys have been building platforms that, kind of make it easier and kind of surpass. And then, these are one of the guys that have been, kind of doing a campaign around, hey, move from Dado, right? For your backup to us kind of thing. And I find it interesting, right? It's going to be a bold comment here. Does negative marketing actually work? I appreciate people being in the position to say, hey, you may not like with what you have, and I may have an option for you to look at. Okay. But like sometimes when you do the marketing campaigns, hey, switch from so-and-so to us, you get the counter effect. You actually get the opposite effect, right? Where it's like, dude, like right way and wrong way, right? That's probably like a lot of people don't like that. It's kind of like a lot of people don't like the chats, the chat bots in LinkedIn where you get hammered, right? So, what's your feeling on that, guys, right? Like, I'm not trying to target these guys specifically. This has been happening in the sandbox for a long, long time. I love the AdWords campaigns where it's like, hey, you don't like these guys, buy us. And it's like, really? That's the way you want to go? Like, hey, everybody has a bad day too. That could flip around on you tomorrow. So, I know a lot of people just think that that's not the right way. Some people maybe don't care. I'd love to hear what the opinion is on that. Brent, what do you got for me, buddy?
Oh, man.
It's loaded. I know, but it came up and I'm like, this just doesn't sound like that's the right approach.
I don't know.
I'm not apologizing for anyone here, right? I'm just saying, like, how many times when you said, ask Burger King, think they would say, don't do it? That was Doug. Doug, yeah, I got you, man. And like, listen, competition breeds some pretty cutthroat moves. Like, I know I've mentioned it a few times over the last month or so. I've been watching a lot of the foods that built America on History Channel. And like, I'm not, thought that was kind of cool, right? All the brand names that you thought you knew, you thought you knew the story. And then you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And like some pretty cutthroat things happen in the realm of competition. And like, listen, competition's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Kind of gets everybody to up their game. But the negative marketing, I feel, especially in the sandbox of MSP and IT land, I feel like it's counterproductive more than it is productive. And I'm not trying to knock the people that have legitimate concerns about this particular transaction coming to a close, but I know bad news always travels faster than good, but I feel like that's it's like a short-term gain for a long-term loss. That's the way I see it.
Maybe I gotta say is that for me as an individual, it makes me. I don't like things that make me feel negative. I don't like things that make me feel upset and cause my emotions to stir and things like that. And so I tend to not like it when I see that stuff. However, let's just take a look at political stuff here. You know what? Everybody comes up and the first week of politics here, everybody is happy-go-lucky. And then when it comes down to the wire, it's like, you vote for him, your children are going to be sold for slavery, and stuff like that. And guys, if that stuff didn't work, I don't think they'd be doing it. They spend way too much money. And I've heard of some of the tactics of those political guys. You know what? When they go out and they send out advertisements and stuff like that to people, They know everything about you. They know whether you are shopping at Costco. And if you are, they know what kind of a person you are. And they target that political ad directly at you, what your needs, wants, and desires are. I listened to a guy on the radio one time talking about this, and it was like, you know what, the tech industry thinks that we're worried about because I know what your birth date is. These guys know how many squares of toilet paper you use every day.
Could you imagine somebody targeting me with that? Hey, do you hate when you shave your head and you get a cut? Really? Okay, all right. Buy this razor instead. Okay, hey, if they have that level of information, wow, we're all doing it wrong, I guess. Which begs the question, you know, what does it take to get that level of information?
Yeah,
And
I think they're doing it illegally. That's where all of the data mining across the internet and the phones and everything, that's where it's going to, is the political systems.
Just ask Cambridge Analytica. I'm sure they have a price for that stuff.
Wow, this is true. We heard all about that. And Facebook was all into that issue. Well, but then, you know, listen, it's amazing how much data is for sale. And you know, that just goes to show the power of data is just explosive. And in the wrong hands, anything can be, you know, and anybody can take something good and turn it into a bad, right? But it begs the question, right? How much data do you have access to, and how far would you try and extrapolate that? But Doug says, you before me means that if everyone in the relationship is more concerned about the other participant's success more than their own, how can you fail? He's going back to the whole, does negative marketing make sense? Yeah, Doug, with you 100%, man. Like, let me concentrate on me, right? Let me concentrate on what we're doing. Let me concentrate on how we're going out there solving problems, right? Rather than look at those guys. And they're, you know, like, I think, I don't know. I appreciate the people that are trying to capitalize on what seems to be, you know, the disturbance in the force, if you would. But, you know, I think there's a better way.
Yeah, George, just, you know, sales 101, man. You know, you don't talk bad about your competitors. It's just, I don't think it does anything in the end. It just kind of makes you look like kind of what Doug's saying here, you before me, means everyone in the relationship is more concerned about the other participant. And I think when you do that, it draws attention to that fact. But if you don't, and then, you know,
I remember many stories throughout my travels where somebody bought the other guy's product because he was sold on it by their competitor. And I was just like, oh, I couldn't believe it. He did. He's like, yeah, this guy showed up. He kept on saying, you know, don't buy that, but don't buy that. And I went and I bought it. I said, why? Just because he said not to? He's like, yeah, must be good. I said, okay. I mean, it can happen. That's not what you want. I think there's a lot of, I mean, listen, I always talk about the keyboard warriors and the forums and all the places where people go and put that frustration venting out there. But I think there's a lot of places now where people talk, right? And I just think that stuff doesn't work. And frankly, I think that, you know, I appreciate everybody's trying to get ahead, but don't do that, right? Yeah. You ever heard of MSPs? You know, they're maybe in a smaller market, there's only so many of them in that particular area. And then, like, you know, I'd rather you go do co-opetition than try and, like, you know, knife in the shoulder on the marketing stuff. But I digress, guys. I just couldn't help but see it. I'm like, wow. Okay. How about you just put out there that you have a really good product and that you have a special offer if people want to give it a try? I don't know. I think that might work. Who knows? What do you think there, Ryan?
I think a great example of what you're talking about is the MSP Initiative and the bus tour. I mean, you're posting up in a city and there's a host, but then there's like their competitors all from the area and they all come.
Right.
But everyone's hanging out together. And nobody's trying to steal each other's customers at this thing. Like, if you're operating at that level, and like I said, you're not, you know, worry about yourself. Don't worry about the other guys. Do what you need to do. But I think that's a great illustration of it, George, because I was I was really curious about that, but then just seeing it, live, everyone gets along, everyone's cool.
There's enough business out there for everyone. Hopefully, let's hope that like whatever this thing that's coming, 2008 part 2.
I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to badmouth anybody or anything like that. I just and Crewhu has been somebody who, when I go out to shows and stuff like that, everybody's got a little bit higher of a notch of enthusiasm and stuff like that. And that tends to really make a bigger difference in my, everybody is drawn around. Oh, who's the they want to hang around where the excitement's going on. Do you want to hang around the booth where everybody's got a sour word, kind of a thing? I don't.
Or on their computer and not talking to anyone.
Yeah, they couldn't care less. I want to go to where they're excited and hey, how you doing? Spin the wheel, whatever it is. But there is a level of, hey, we're excited about the company we work for and we actually care.
Yeah. Brent's been by my booth because he said spin the wheel. So I'm like, he must have been there.
Yep.
Not spin the wheel. I think they should just give hats out and make it a thing. That's like their thing. But hey.
Well, yeah, fedoras.
I've got a Crewhu t-shirt.
Oh, nice.
Hand out fedoras.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I mean, the ebb and flow of the IT world. But good news is, like I said, we're in a good industry. Bad news is the industry supports the world around us, and let's hope that doesn't crumble anytime soon. But and the gas prices, oof. Hopefully, we see them start to go the other way because man.
So they're over $6 here.
I remember putting a photo when I was in California, thinking, "Wow, this pricing's crazy." And then like I went to the gas station down the street, and it's like, we're finally there. Not good. Not good. When regular gets close to $5 a gallon, man, obviously we've never seen it in this country before, but California's different. California's different.
Yep,
I know.
It's $150 to fill the truck up.
Yeah, craziness. Walter says right before 2024, you'll see them go down. Man, if it's another long, we got to get wait till 2024. Oh. That
I'm really waiting for Mr. Fusion. When are they going to get that where I could throw a beer?
Whoa, you got that wrong.
Yeah, Mr. Flux capacitor.
No, yeah, Mr. Fusion only powered the flux capacitor. Didn't you watch Back to the Future?
Oh, rats, you're right. Okay.
They couldn't find a gas station.
That's right.
Remember they tried to put like whiskey down the gas tank and it blew the engine?
They should make the Mr. Fusion power everything. That's, I'm sure Elon's on it. He's going to figure it out.
Oh, yeah. Well, it could be interesting. I would, Toyota hydrogen car, 400 plus miles per gallon. That sounds pretty good. How much is that, Doug? If that was affordable, I might just like hydrogen cars, just water.
I don't think that I've looked at the pricing and stuff like that on those. They are not that bad. The hydrogen is a weird fuel. I used to work with a company in the 80s, and that was what they did. They created a computer company that I worked for to control their hydrogen energy stuff. That was my first start in computers. So
I thought natural gas was going to be all the rage. I know Honda came out with the Civic, completely natural. Most of the buses in most major cities run on natural gas.
Yeah.
Propane. Yeah.
Yeah. So he says, don't know, way more affordable than electric. Ford developed it and Toyota is running with it. Huh. That's interesting. Keep your eyes out for that.
The generation of hydrogen infrastructure. You can't have a hydrogen generator at the house.
Yeah.
Yet.
Love to see, like gas, diesel, hydrogen. Maybe not.
Electric.
Electric. Exhaust is water. Yeah, I got that wrong. Yeah, exhaust is water. Sounds interesting. Well, stay tuned, guys. I'm sure there'll be more news. Again, we do these Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1:00 Eastern time. Ryan, appreciate you for taking some time to come on. Thanks for jumping on the tour. Can't wait to get you a cheesesteak, man. On me.
I'm excited. I can't wait.
You heard it. I will definitely deliver on that.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And anyone else that wants one, make sure to come out. Stay tuned, MSPinitiative.com, and catch you on the next one, guys.
Ciao.
Thanks. Bye.
All right.